Hello, and welcome to my Terrafirmagreg Steam Age ore processor. This is mostly in response to some guy on Reddit who asked about it, and I was trying to type it up and take screenshots, and I realized this would be a lot easier if I just recorded it. So, starting here, this is the input, everything comes in, and it's split off three ways. All of the not ore goes through here with this filter, if you want to copy those settings. And then most of the ore goes straight into the grinder, which is these ones. And then there are the poor ore pieces, which are pulled out over here, which are then split off two ways. The normal ore bits, like the metals and such, you want to use the press, because you get a 75% chance of a crushed ore piece rather than 50% with the steam grinder. But I don't put gems into the press. This is the list of gems. You cannot use a list filter for this because it's too short. It needs to be the tag filter. The reason that I don't put the gems into the press is because that will just give the straight up gem itself. Like if you put in raw quartz, you'll just get the quartz item, which you can't sift in order to get byproducts and exquisite and higher quality gems. It's just the base gem from the press. So you have to put it into the grinder to get the ground up version, which can then be purified for byproducts and, sifted, and then get more byproducts in the centrifuge and all that. So the reason that I use a steam grinder instead of a steel millstone is because there's already a lot of create machinery in here, and, the problem with all this create stuff is that at the steam age tier, to have a machine at max power means it has a dedicated shaft for every single machine, which it gets out of hand. So I went with a steam grinder just for the convenience of not having to run another create machine line. So then that comes out of there and it goes into here, which is this vault, which splits it off four ways for washing. So these are, I can break this real quick so you can see better. So these are brass funnels coming off of the item vault, which are set to pull out exactly 16 items. And there are 4 encased fans, set to, of course, circuit 1, which are all blowing into the depot, and that will wash the items. And then this filter right here says to just pull out anything that is not a crushed ore. And it's important to have multiple fans. 4 fans is much faster. So 4 fans at 1/4 speed is much faster than 1 fan at full speed. It takes exactly 5 seconds per wash cycle with 4 fans. That's 16 items every 5 seconds, and I have 4 of these, which I use this vault to split them up perfectly, because the brass funnels just take from anywhere in the vault. It does end up with a bunch of stuff getting left over, but that's whatever to me. You can change the settings if you want to not have all this stuff just sitting in there. So then from here, that's all merged up, and it goes through this brass tunnel. So the items are pulled out of this depot and run through a pipe under the ground, which are then pushed into the centrifuge output chest, which then goes up this belt and is sorted, which I will explain when I explain the centrifuge. Then it splits off again. Anything that can be sifted is sent over here to be sifted in these vibrating tables and dumped into this vault. And I also pull off exquisite gems because I like looking at shiny things. So then I have another funnel that pulls off of the gem vault to send it into the centrifuging chest, because sifting gems will produce purified gem dust, which you can centrifuge for byproducts. And then everything that cannot be sifted is dumped into the second steam grinder, and then is put into this steel crate. Now the reason that I don't output with the auto output directly into the centrifuge line is because these centrifuges are just very angry at creating lag. They really like creating lag. They'll do it if you don't watch them, because the centrifuge renders every single item you put in it, just as if you had dropped items on the ground like that. So, it adds up pretty quickly when you got 100 things in here, because they don't stack. Like, normally when you have dropped items on the ground, they stack together like this, and it's only one entity. the centrifuges don't seem to do that. They seem to render every single item individually, and it just completely clogs up your game. So what I have here is this goes into a steel crate with a LV conveyor. This doesn't actually require LV. It's called an LV conveyor, and it uses LV motors, but you can just craft this in the Steam Age. There's no need for electricity at all to make this. So yeah, then what that does is it only sends out 8 items at a time, and on round robin mode. So that prevents the centrifuges from having too much stuff in them. So then the centrifuges are all hooked up to this central boiler, which has, I have 16 centrifuges, so there's 16 steam engines coming off of it. And then each of those goes into a rotation speed controller for maximum speed, then down to a gearbox and into a clutch. And then you install a redstone module. It's these right here. You just right-click the centrifuge with it, and that allows you to take a comparator output, which will output whenever it has the ability to perform a recipe. So if there's a purified dust in here that can be centrifuged, then it will output to the comparator. So I just set that into a torch here, which goes up into a pulse extender from Create with a 1-second delay, and then that will unpower the clutch. And the 1-second delay is very important because you need to give it time to extract all of the now purified dust from the centrifuge, because otherwise it will just keep pumping things in from over here, and you'll end up with items stuck in all the centrifuges and build up that same lag problem of all those items stuck in the system. Yeah, on the underside down here, I have this wire, which is taking an input from every single centrifuge, that same comparator from up top, and that wire is down here to control this mechanical arm to determine whether or not it should be putting charcoal into these burners. So then all of those come out of there, and over there, they join up in these steel crates, which is sent down the chutes to this steel crate and pulled out of here into this tunnel. And I do recommend using tunnels as much as you can, more than brass funnels, because in my experience, brass funnels generate a lot of lag. I used to have just a single brass funnel right here that was generating 12 milliseconds of lag. For reference, you only get 50. 50 milliseconds per tick is the maximum, and then you start to get TPS lag. And just a single brass funnel was pulling 12. So I use tunnels now. So this splits it 3 ways. If it can be smelted normally, it's sent over here into this steam oven to be smelted. If it can be bloomeried, it's sent over here to be turned into wrought iron. I use a double input bus system for this. So this is the input bus which takes in the metals, and this one is just charcoal. And that allows it to just work with no need for any weird like ratio mechanics or anything like that. So then the blooms are pulled out of the steam bloomery, and I just put them into 2 forge hammers right here. And then that is sent off into the main line. Yeah, which takes everything over to storage. And then everything else is sent here, which goes down here and over to this storage. This is just a wall of super chests with item pipes on the back, just pointing into them, and everything that has a super chest goes into it. And I use a restrictive pipe on the back of this steel crate to make it just a miscellaneous for anything that doesn't fit elsewhere. You don't need 4 washers. You don't need that at all, because I had gotten the centrifuge amounts wrong. When I built the centrifuge, I did my testing with the timings with limonite dust. Limonite, yeah, that's it. I did with limonite dust, and I had assumed that, you know, an ore dust is an ore dust and it's all going to take the same amount of time. That's not true at all. Limonite is actually one of the faster ore dusts by quite a lot. I think limonite takes about 3 seconds per cycle, where something like redstone takes 20 seconds. So the timing was completely wrong on this, so you don't need 4 washers. You can do just fine with 1 washing station with, again, 4 fans on it. Yeah, the bottleneck is centrifuging for sure. Just because it's much slower than I thought it would be, because limonite is extremely quick. I power the whole thing with these up here. It's just these 8 steam solar boilers up on the roof, and they feed into a buffer tank, because you need a buffer tank if you're using solar. Yeah, and the guy on Reddit who asked me about this asked for some schematics of things, which I heard there's some kind of a problem with this schematic mod. Like it can run code on your computer. It's buggy right now, so I am not going to install that, unfortunately. But I hope that this video is good enough for you to build it up yourself. So yeah, one final thing. I pointed out some problems with this, so just to be clear, if I was to build this again, I would have more steam, only one set of 4 encased fans, and yeah, I'd still probably build up that many centrifuges. They are very slow. And probably less vibrating tables. I only had 8 here because I had around 40,000 rose quartz to go through, which is now all polished up. We could honestly probably get away with 1 with just a normal load of gems. So yeah, that's my ore processing setup. Thank you for watching, and I hope that answered all of your questions.